Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mini Books Podcast with your host, Gloria and Rogan. And today we are excited to dive into Special Book with You. We picked this one because it has really important lessons to share, and we can't wait to talk about them. So let's get started.
All right, so we're diving into Atomic Habits today, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because all your notes tell me this is exactly what you guys want to be unpacking right now.
For sure.
So
It's a good one.
it is a good one, and I think there's a lot to be said about, before James Clear became James Clear, the habit guy. He had this crazy experience
Totally.
where he was in this baseball accident
Oh, yeah.
and broke some bones and had a whole big thing. And he talks about how in that recovery period, that's kind of where he started exploring these tiny atomic habits.
Yeah.
And credits that time with putting him on the path to writing this book and obviously healing physically, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
it's cool, right?
It totally tracks his whole, just even the way he writes, you can tell it's he's lived it.
Totally. So, okay, let's break down one of the core ideas in Atomic Habits, which is this 4 stages of habit formation.
Okay.
Cue, craving, response, reward.
Yes.
I was thinking about this, and it reminds me of our ancestors looking for food and water.
Right?
It's that was a built-in
Totally a neat.
cue, right? We need it.
We are hardwired to seek out rewards. That's what our brain does.
Yeah.
Think of it as this reward detector that's constantly scanning for anything that's going to lead to those essential needs being met, you know? Food, water, safety, all that stuff.
It all comes back to survival.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I think is really important about this too is if any of those stages are missing,
Okay.
the behavior is not going to stick.
Interesting.
It won't become a habit.
So you're saying even if I have the cue and I have the craving,
Yeah.
but the response isn't there or the reward isn't satisfying,
It's not going to do it.
it's not going to become a habit.
It's like a chain reaction.
Okay.
Every single link needs to be there
Got it.
for it to actually work.
Which I think is where his idea of the habit scorecard comes in.
Yes.
Which I thought was really interesting. Have you ever heard of the point and call system
Yes.
used by Japanese train conductors?
I have. It's fascinating.
So interesting.
It's so cool.
So they literally point at things
Yes.
and call them out loud.
Yeah.
As they're
The signals and
looking at signals and
Yeah.
whatever. And it
all the things.
dramatically reduces errors.
It's crazy.
And he's we should be doing that with our habits.
Yes.
Whether they're good or bad, we should be that's a habit.
Awareness.
Just becoming aware of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you can start to make changes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring it into your awareness because then you can actually choose a different response.
Okay, so awareness is key. But how do we put that awareness into action and actually build better habits?
Right.
What are we actually doing
Yeah.
to make those changes?
One of the things
Besides just being aware.
that I think is so powerful that he talks about is these tiny gains.
Okay.
These small 1% improvements that we can make every day.
Yeah.
And it's this idea that these tiny changes
Yeah,
compounded over time create massive results.
totally.
He uses that analogy of imagine a plane taking off,
Okay.
right? And even a slight adjustment at the beginning of the flight
Huge difference.
leads to a totally different destination.
It's the butterfly effect for our habits.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And I love that he says, I'm going to quote him here. He says, if you want to predict where you'll end up in life, all you have to do is follow the curve of tiny gains or tiny losses.
Yes.
Those small
Yes.
daily choices.
Yes. It's not about the big sweeping changes. It's those little things
Yeah.
that you do every single day because
Dr.
those are the things that actually make up your life.
But I feel it's so easy to get discouraged in the beginning when you're not seeing the results.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
You want to see those big changes right away.
Yeah.
But the reality is real lasting change takes time.
Yep.
And so I think this is where understanding those concepts of the valley of disappointment
Yes.
and the plateau of latent potential are so important.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Okay.
Because I feel those are things that I marked that felt important,
Yes.
but I would love to understand what they actually mean.
Okay, so the valley of disappointment is that place where you're putting in the work,
Right.
but you're not seeing the results yet.
Okay.
So you're ugh.
Yeah.
Is this even worth it?
Yeah.
Should I keep going?
Yeah.
And then the plateau of latent potential is that place where you've been working on it consistently.
Right.
You're like, but I feel like I've hit a wall.
Right.
Like, I'm not seeing that progress anymore.
Okay, got it.
And so it's like, how do you push through that?
Right. How do we stay motivated
How do you stay motivated?
when we're like in the valley
100%.
or on the plateau?
And I think that's where that, like, remembering those tiny gains is so important. It's like shifting your focus from that long-term goal to like the small wins that you're making each day.
Okay.
So it's like, instead of focusing on the 10 pounds you want to lose, it's like, I'm celebrating the fact that I chose a healthy meal today.
Cool.
Or I went for a walk.
Yeah, and that actually goes really well with something that you sent over in your notes,
Okay.
which was like wanting to learn things quickly but thoroughly.
Right.
And I feel like this is like such a perfect example of that.
It's trusting the process.
Yes.
And I think that's a really important thing to remember about habits is like,
Okay.
progress isn't always linear. There are going to be times where it feels like you're not moving forward.
Okay.
But that's often like the most growth is happening.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
So patience is key.
Yes.
But are there other things that we can do like practically
Yes.
to set ourselves up for success?
100%. Sorry to interrupt you guys. If you're enjoying this podcast, then don't forget to check out our official YouTube channel, Mini Books Podcast, and subscribe for more great podcasts like this one. One of the things that I think is so powerful is like designing your environment for success.
Okay.
Like, we are constantly influenced by our surroundings.
100%.
Often without even realizing it.
You know, I was thinking about that when we were talking about, like, I read that story in the book about the Safeguard soap.
Yes.
In Pakistan.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
I do.
Where they like...
It's amazing.
It's amazing. And it's like such a good example.
It's such a good example of environment design.
Because it's like they made hand washing...
more enjoyable.
More enjoyable. And it like...
And so people did it more.
Significantly increased hygiene levels.
Right.
And it's like they made it fun for kids.
Right.
By putting glitter in the soap.
Yes.
And like doing all these things.
Because they want to wash their hands with glitter soap.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, come on.
Who doesn't? And it's like, that's the thing. It's like...
It's about making it...
Make it appealing.
Yes.
And appealing.
Make it obvious and appealing and inviting.
Yes.
Instead of like this chore
yes.
that you have to do.
It shouldn't feel like a chore.
So it's like, if you want to eat healthier, put it at
the front.
Healthy food in the front where you can see it.
Make it easy.
Right.
Yeah. It's like out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind.
100%.
Right.
Totally. It's like we could either let our environment work against us or we can get to design it to work for us.
100%.
But what about motivation?
Yeah.
Because even if we have all the right things in place, sometimes it's like, starting a new habit is hard.
Oh, it's so hard.
Especially in the beginning.
It's so hard. And this is where
right.
that concept of habit shaping, I think, is so helpful.
Okay.
It's like making that initial step so small.
Yes.
So ridiculously easy that you like can't say no.
The 2-minute rule.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So it's like, instead of being like, I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes, it's like, I'm going to sit down and take 5 deep breaths. Or instead of, I'm going to clean the entire kitchen, it's like, I'm going to load the dishwasher.
Right. It's like breaking it down into those bite-sized pieces.
Yes.
Makes it feel a lot less overwhelming.
Way less overwhelming.
Especially in the beginning.
Yes.
But I feel like even then, we still need a little motivation sometimes to keep going.
100%. And he talks about this too, like the importance of immediate rewards.
Okay.
Like, our brains are wired.
That's because we want that.
To prioritize instant gratification.
Yes, we want it now.
Over long-term benefit every time.
Like, how do we tap into that then?
Yes.
How do we make those healthy habits more immediately rewarding?
Okay, so...
Like there was that example in the book with the couple that wanted to go to Europe.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Right. They're like...
And they were putting money in they had a savings account for the trip, and every time they skipped eating out, they would transfer the money.
It's brilliant.
That they would spend into that account.
Yes.
Love that.
So good.
So they're like getting that like visual reminder, like, oh, we're getting closer to our goal.
So smart.
Every time.
Like they made it tangible.
Yes.
Instead of it just being like, oh, we're not going to get takeout. Like, we're saying yes to this trip.
Exactly, 100%.
Like, so good.
Yes.
It also reminded me of something else he said, which I thought was really interesting, which is like, finding those right habits for you.
Yes.
Like the ones that feel aligned with like who you are naturally.
Yes, like what actually lights you up.
Yes. And he uses that example of the Polgar sisters, who were raised to be like chess prodigies.
Yes, love them.
Right. Like their whole world
Their whole life was chess.
was chess.
Yes.
And it's like, imagine if they were surrounded by like musicians instead.
Right.
Imagine
Different.
totally different.
See, interesting.
It's like what we're surrounded by
right.
really influences
So how do we know?
what we think.
How do we know what our right habits are?
Right.
Like what actually fits for us?
That's such a good question. I think that's where that concept of like finding your Goldilocks zone comes in.
Okay.
Like those habits that are challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so difficult that they become overwhelming.
Right.
You know, like a good example of this is exercise.
Oh, okay.
Like if you're somebody who loves being outdoors,
Your Goldilocks zone might be like going for a hike, joining a running club,
instead of like,
not signing up for a gym membership
yes,
that you're never going to use.
that you're going to hate.
No.
It's like becoming a detective
Yes.
of your own life,
Yes. 100%.
figuring out like what actually lights you up.
What feels good.
What feels good? What do you want to do?
Yes.
And making those your habits.
And I think that's what makes it sustainable too.
Yes.
Is finding those things that like light you up.
This has been awesome.
This has been so
I
fun.
feel like we covered so much.
We did.
We talked about like the 4 stages of habit formation.
Yes.
We talked about tiny gains.
Yes.
We talked about designing our environment
Yes.
for success. We talked about finding those immediate rewards. Aligning our habits with who we actually are.
It's so good.
Like this is huge.
It's a lot.
This is a lot.
It's good stuff.
And I want to leave everyone with this because I think this is so powerful.
Okay.
James Clear says,
Yes.
every action you take is a vote
Ooh. I like this.
for the type of person you want to become.
Ooh. That's good.
Right.
Mic drop.
So think about that.
Yes.
What action are you going to take today
Yes. Love it.
to be that person
Yes. 100%.
that you want to be?
Amazing.
That's it for our deep dive on Atomic Habits, guys.
So good.
We hope you loved it,
Hope you enjoyed it.
and we'll see you for the next one.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to dive into more book insights and key learnings, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Mini Books Podcast, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We're back every Sunday at 9 a.m. with new books and more to learn from. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and keep growing. Remember, this is Mini Books Podcast.